Swanglin Show, episode 43. It's going down. Joshua P. Dunn in the house with my man, Mr. Grips, the Swanglin heavyweight champion. Today, the P is for powerful, because we're going to talk about some wild shit today. My friend, the Swanglin heavyweight champion, how are you doing today?
Oh, it's good, broski. How you doing?
Doing wonderful. Enjoying a Sunday, and as you roasteth upon thine own Bolski, I may join you as well as we
Oh yeah.
kick off episode 43 of the Swanglin Show, connected remote. Right now, we're started off as the bare bones. It's just myself, the host with the fucking most, Joshua P. Dunn, and the Swanglin heavyweight champion of all time, the number one Swangler, Hyman Roth, Dan Marley, the superstar of David, Mr. Grips, representing South
Dade
Florida,
County.
is joining me. So I've been peeping some game, my dude, right? Like watching, like keeping up with news more prevalently, like over the last, like I would say, 2 months or so. And dude,
Mm-hmm.
you just see like a litany of all these accounts of domestic violence, like within athletes and with uh, actors and movie producers and all this wild shit going on in the world. You see their coverage of one of the trials or an arrest or somebody's bond or something. It's almost every day that I see this, right? So I said, man, that's wild that this shit is becoming this common. I think maybe this is something we should talk about on the Swanglin Show. What do you think about that?
Hell yeah. I'm all for it.
Now, in our pre-show conversation, you know, we kind of covered a little bit between us about like the spectrum of what is domestic violence, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we were, you know, the small end would be like mental abuse or like something like that, and then to physical abuse even, or in some instances, like we were talking about, you had mentioned like the full blown fucking Chris Benoit could end in somebody getting fucking murdered. People are crazy
Yeah.
about this fucking shit, right? So I found I was doing this, doing some research after like kind of being alarmed by that, and I found this list on socialsolutions.com, right? Now, I'm not very familiar with this website, so I don't know about its validity, but they have a bunch of, a list, you would say, of um, alarming domestic violence statistics, right? And it says, just to kick off the article, before they even get into the list, it says more than 10 million men and women in the United States are subjected to domestic violence yearly. Yearly, 10 million people in the United States are subject to domestic violence. Do you think that that means that we just live in like a violent culture?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, just violence in general. You know, nature is violent, predators and prey. You know, and therefore societies are going to be violent. You know, it's just violence is inherent in living. It seems like.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. And speaking of violence, right? It might not be domestic. This might be strictly for-profit violence. This might be a package to be bought and sold at large pay-per-view arenas across the country on episode 43 of the Swanglin Show, as we're now joined by the heir apparent to Mr. Grips' Swanglin heavyweight championships that he covets so closely and tightly to his fucking waist down there in beautiful sunny South Florida. Stan Edwards Jr. is in the building today. What's happening, my friend?
What's going on, fellas? How y'all doing?
We're
What up,
doing
bro?
wonderful. We are doing wonderful. We had just kicked off right before you had joined us, so it's I found this list, Prof, on socialsolutions.com about 20 alarming domestic violence statistics, right?
Mm-hmm.
And before they even jump into the list of these 20 alarming statistics, it says that 10 million men and women in the United States are subjected to domestic violence yearly. I just asked Vice this question. I'm gonna piggyback it right back to you as well. Do you think that's just a subject of like the fact that we live in a violent culture?
Um, I would say that like we're a violent species to begin with. Um, and we don't. A lot of times we don't know how to control that violence. Sometimes, and our violence, the way I see it, our violence has evolved. You know, our violence is now verbal, like you see it on social media. But that's a whole different subject. But I think we're a violent species as is, and we're an emotional species, and we don't know how to control. We don't know how to control those emotions, and um, but yeah, I think it's just how we are as a species. Like we're just a violent species. I don't necessarily think it's the culture. Um, I think the culture promotes. Um, I would say the culture and society promotes nonviolence. Um, or in order to fit in the society, we have to be nonviolent. But I think on a you know just as a species, I think we're violent species, a violent species.
And Mr. Grips had mentioned that just that's like nature, like it's not just our species that's like that. It's pretty
Yeah.
much all species are like that. You know what I mean? It's like a
Mm-hmm.
very broad spectrum of like what even is considered to be what is labeled as domestic violence, right? So I can see how there would be a statistic that is that large, like 10 million people or whatever. But I want to
Mm-hmm.
dive in with you guys and go into some of the statistics that are on this list that I found to be pretty wild out. Like, I'm not one to really look at the statistics maybe of this subject or similar subjects because it's kind of not on my radar. But as I'm looking at it, it's like, wow, it's kind of alarming. So on this list, it says um, more than 1 in 3 women and more than 1 in 4 men in the United States will experience being raped, physical violence, and or stalking by an intimate partner in their lifetime. My friends, um, that is a statistic that is fucking alarming and shocking. Now,
That's
I gotta
crazy.
ask a question to
Because
the
if
Swanglin.
it says more than 1 in 3, and then more than 1 in 4, so that means like almost 50% of women and almost
Yes,
33% of men.
yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah, that would be the high end of the estimated statistic of what they just fucking displayed there. So, I gotta ask you, man, as the Swanglin heavyweight champion, you know, there's gotta be some fucking. You gotta experience some wild fucking shit being the man out there in South Florida. You ever been stalked, Grips? Are you in the. Or do you fit within that fucking catalog of this? Are you a number? You know?
No, I'm not a
Have you
statistic. I'm an
become a
outlier,
number?
but I did have a chick that was like kind of obsessed with me. We was talking online. She lived in a different area. I was like, all right, whatever. Take a little vacation, smash, come back. But she got addicted before I even dicted. You know what I'm saying? Like she Googled my house
Wow.
number and freaking was sending me food. Like food would just show up at my doorstep, like steak and lobster and heart shaped pizzas and all this shit. Like, yeah, this shit was wild. I was like, yeah, it's kind of creepy. I didn't
Yeah.
even give you my address and you found that shit.
Yeah, you ate though.
Hell yeah, I eat that shit.
I feel
Eating. But
it.
but it was still, I was just like kind of looking around like as I'm cutting the steak, just like I was playing. But yeah, no, it was weird. I never had no like you know domestic violence shit happen. I would never hit a female, and no females ever try to hit me. You know, um, you say if you want to talk about like gaslighting and the mental aspect, then maybe my ex a little bit. She was a manipulator, but
I love how you just dropped like the Randy Savage hand movement when you said manipulator. That fits. It's like, oh, you manipulator. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I know Stan up there in Toledo definitely feels everything about the Macho Man Randy Savage. You know what I'm saying? So Stan, I got to know your thoughts on that statistic that I dropped of the, 1 in 3, more than 1 in 3 women, more than 1 in 4 men will experience rape, physical violence, or stalking by an intimate partner in their lifetime. Do you think that that's fucking insanely high? Because I do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what worries me is the fact that it's probably higher than that because of how many people don't speak about it, don't report it. They just kind of sweep it under the rug. It creates a lot of, and it's fucked up. And this honestly, this is a touchy subject for me because it really bothers me. And I've been so fortunate in my life, right, to never experience any of that. But um, it's a touchy subject for me because of how many people I know have dealt with that. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, it doesn't go reported. It doesn't go talked about. People don't share it. There's a lot of people going through certain situations right now, speaking of domestic violence specifically, that they can't speak out about because they don't have, you might be with somebody who knows to isolate you from your friends and family, right? That way you don't have a support system. If I don't have anybody to go to, then who am I going to tell? Who's going to believe me? And so I honestly think, I hate to say it, but I honestly think it's actually higher than that. That's just what actually gets reported. So, but yeah, it's definitely it's very alarming, like Grip said.
So I think that we had talked earlier a little bit and touched bases of like what is defined as domestic violence that would fit into these type of scenarios. And like I've always heard people say this, and I don't know if it deems to be true or not, or maybe you guys can piggyback the fact that maybe you've heard people say this before too, that in domestic violence scenarios, the person that calls the cops is the one that doesn't go to jail, and the person that no matter what, if someone calls on you, you're going to jail. Have you guys ever heard that before?
Yeah, it's with all situations with the fucking pigs, though. They're gonna
Yeah,
believe whoever called first. You know what I'm saying? Because they're like, all
yeah,
right, they're on our side.
I mean,
yeah.
Steve,
I mean,
are you
if
familiar with that concept? Do you think that that's actually how that works?
I've never actually like, I can't give you like real world examples, but it does make sense as you say that. Um, but I can see a rare scenario where you could be the one to call the cops, but the cops see through exact all the bullshit that you're saying.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's kind of I don't know. I would like to think that our law enforcement is a little more intelligent, and would be able
Yeah.
to tell, that
Yeah.
just because this person called the cops doesn't necessarily mean that they're the victim here. You know, they could have just been the first one to the phone because some
Yeah.
people know,
Yeah.
if
For
I
sure.
call the cops first, they'll be on my side.
Yeah.
But again, I'm overly optimistic sometimes. So
Yeah. Definitely. And you see scenarios that play out like um, when in that statistic where it mentioned like people being stalked and physically abused, like it's not cool, dude, as a man under any circumstance to be physically abusing a fucking woman. Like you gotta primarily look at that scenario. If you're in a scenario as a dude where you feel like you're being pushed to the level of having to abuse a female, you probably should leave. You know what I'm saying? Because that's never a good look. You can't do things like that. Either like, um, you can't fucking mentally abuse people and physically abuse people. Period. No matter who they are. Now there is a difference, though, in my opinion, between um, um, what could be considered to some as like domestic violence, but it's not assault, but it's more like restraint. Like, what if you're in a scenario where, as a man, your partner's attacking you and you got to make it stop? Is that you fighting back or is that you stopping it?
My
Grips, your
boy
opinion.
literally, my boy literally went through that scenario with his baby mama. He was holding her back, and she was hitting him, and fucking because she had bruises on her arms, he went. You know what I'm saying? He took that ride to county.
Yeah, dude, and that's kind of crazy because it's like, as a human being, like, if you're getting stole on by any type of fucking creature, you're gonna want to make that stop, you
Yep.
know. And if you just stop, that's the reason why I mentioned that is because like even though there is all this different case law, like I had mentioned earlier, like you're seeing with celebrities and NFL players and all this shit, it's always some domestic violence shit in the news all the fucking time. So it's like you look at it, it's like, what is the fucking stem of this whole deal? Because like from the stalking front and shit like that, I get that. Like, um, that's a trait that is even like linked to a bunch of serial killers and shit. Like people that do that, like sexual deviancy, perversion, fucking weird shit based upon intimacy. Do you know what I'm talking about, guys? To where it's like them fuckers that are stalkers are usually the same dudes that probably murder women and rape women and do shit like that as well.
Yeah, even if they don't push themselves to the point of actually doing it, they definitely probably think about it. I mean,
Well,
what kind of weirdo do you have to be to stalk someone in the fucking first place? You
yeah,
know?
that's what I'm saying. That's never the player move to be the fucking stalker. It's
Hell
never
no.
a player move to be an abuser or anything like that. It's one thing as a man to have some principle and not be tolerant to things, but that doesn't mean you have to abuse people physically or mentally. You know what I mean? There's always another way. But I want to bounce back to this list that I was talking about earlier from socialsolutions.com. Where and there's a I'm not gonna list all 20 of these fucking things, but there's a couple of them that are fucking wild out in my opinion. Um,
Mm.
this is another one. It says globally, as many as 38% of all murders of women are committed by former or current intimate partners.
That makes perfect. I mean, that makes perfect sense. You know, um, domestic violence, of course, if it goes too far, I mean, obviously, if it's escalating to a point where like everybody has disagreements, right? But if it's escalating to a point where it's even a violent conversation, some people call that an argument, but if it escalates to a point where it becomes a violent conversation, it's going too far. But most violence, most crime is done by somebody that's close to you anyway. Anything, most harm comes to you from someone who's close to you. If somebody who's far away from you, they can't do nothing to you because they're far away from you. You know what I mean? Yeah, but people have to actually, for the most part, people have to get close to you in order to do anything to you.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
that makes perfect sense. I mean, it doesn't make sense the fact that it actually happens, but that stats make sense to me.
Well, piggybacking that stat as well, it says 15% of all violent crimes accounts from intimate partner violence. Grips, your thoughts on that?
I would have thought it would be a lot higher, you know, because honestly, usually violence and crime in general is proximity, is who you're around.
Right.
You know?
Yeah,
It's hard
that's
to be
true.
a victim of a crime if you're not near people, unless it's like a cyber fraud or you know something like that. Um, so I would have thought that that percentage would have been higher. And again, just like Prof said earlier, it could be people not reporting it, not wanting to snitch on their partner or whatever when they're
Well, on
actually
the list, bro, on the list as well, just thrown out, plain as day, is it says most cases of domestic violence are never reported to the police. And it also
right.
cites several sources to prove that as well. So, like what Stan had mentioned earlier, if you're somebody that's in one of these scenarios where maybe you're being abused and you feel like you have no outlets and shit like that, there's plenty of outlets out here. You gotta make your fucking move and escape from the psycho fucking overlord before you get fucking crisp and wild out here with your fucking kids and shit will be wild the fuck out.
It's really crazy. Like, and you know, just using women as an example, I don't know if I can necessarily say that it's mostly women or anything like that, but a lot of times with women, like even if they're being completely mistreated, like they still think that they're doing something wrong, or they still don't want to, feel like they're doing something wrong. And if they report it, and if they, if it's like if they report it, they're getting somebody in trouble, they're getting their spouse in trouble, or is like you logically you thinking like, yes, you should get that motherfucker in trouble because they are accosting you, they're doing something that they shouldn't be doing to you, but you still think that you are doing something wrong by reporting it, and
Well,
it's
it's
really
kind of
great.
it's kind of like stepping over a line. Like, I mean, the line should have been crossed when the person was being abusive, And then it should be like, all right, well, all's fair. But I think what it is the victim of the abuse knows that once they call and put it on a report, they make it real.
Mm.
They can't sweep it under the rug. It's on the record and it's out there. And then that's just going to carry forward into, that situation. It changes the dynamic of what is going on at that house. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's okay. It's easy to say like, report it, put it on paper. That way, at least somebody knows. But then you still got to live with that person most of the time, unless you're actually like at the point where you're done with it. Then that's the time to probably report it. But
And like, and you just made a good point too. Like, you still got to live with that person. So in their mind, they thinking like, if I report it, like I can't go nowhere else, or there's nowhere else I can go. So if I report it, if I put this person on blast, if I make this person look bad, it's just gonna be even worse. You know what I'm saying? So that's probably another reason why they don't end up reporting it, because they know, the consequences of them reporting it could turn out to be even worse than what they're going through right now. So they'll just stay quiet about it.
And a lot of people, I feel like, have experienced crazy shit like that too. They'll always try and maybe justify being abused in certain ways against reflecting it against other times they were abused or something, and be like, well, it's not as bad as this, so at least for now I can figure out this, until like kind of delaying and stalling the process of maybe wrapping a motherfucker up and stopping the scenario from happening. You know what I'm saying? So you know, I felt like this was a good topic to talk about specifically because of social media has been on fire, dude, for weeks.
Especially with the
About
Amber Heard shit.
yeah, dude. I wanted to talk about that.
No one ever. This is like the most plain thing of a female being abusive to a guy, and it's not as talked about as much as the other side, the flip of it. Because it's more prevalent with guys, just being more physically dominant and powerful portion of the species. But there's a lot of women out there that are abusive to good dudes too. You know what I'm saying?
Oh no, that's fucking big facts, dude. But before we start traveling down that avenue entirely, I think that since the majority of our listener base is men, you know what I mean. We talk about a lot of men's topics. You know what I mean. I think it's a good time right now to talk about the fact that like the way we view women, we kind of have to hold in a higher standard as men, just in general. You know what I mean? Because really, women are not objective. You know what I mean? You're talking about a human fucking being. That you see people and dudes that are in these fucking scenarios that are like completely controlling, completely abusive. You know what I mean? And they don't understand that, this person that they're belittling all the time is actually an asset to them if they took the time to spend that energy being loving and caring in regards to that human being. You know what I'm saying? You see people that like, from a men's standpoint, a lot of men they think it's a reflection maybe of their masculinity to be degrading to a woman. You know what I'm saying? And I don't really fuck with that. I think that's some clown and sucker shit. Stan, what is your thoughts on that?
Oh man, I got a lot of thoughts on this. I could give examples, but I don't want to put anybody's business out there. It's sad that a lot of guys that like you hit the nail on the head, right? A lot of guys, they want to feel like men. They want to feel more masculine, and they think the way to do that is to tear somebody else down. If I can build myself up by tearing somebody else down. Who could I tear down to build myself up? And here's this woman, you know what I'm saying, that who's not going to say anything, who's not going to call me out on my shit. I can tear her down to make myself look good. And it's really sad. And I honestly think I hate to say this, really hate to say this, but I think it's going to get worse. Because males are getting weaker and weaker. And they're not the men that they used to be, right? And you'll hear a lot of guys, they'll say something like, well, I gave her everything, I did this for her, I did that for her. And it's just like, you know, you only did that. You only did certain things for her because you expected something out of in return. So now you're bitter. So now you're angry, and now you're going on. Now there's a whole section of YouTube where, these guys are all mad and pissed off at women, and honestly, it really scares me for women to have to deal with guys like this. You know what I
Oh
mean?
man,
So it,
yeah.
it's I don't know. I hate to say it, but I honestly think it's gonna get worse.
Well, if you're one of these guys that's out here, and you're like fucking maybe you're controlling, or maybe you're physically abusive to your lady, I gotta tell you, man, you're a low son of a bitch, and that's one thing
Some
that's gonna
bitch.
be known. And as dudes, I feel like you said, we gotta hold the standard a little bit fucking higher for dudes out here. If you got younger dudes that's in your family, maybe you should drop some game on them after you listen to the Swanglin show and let them know this type of shit ain't acceptable. If there's people in your family that's doing shit like this, you got to coordinate and maybe handle some business on some other fucking fronts to make it to stop. And we gotta be the ones that kind of push that forward with our kids, or with our siblings' kids, or your cousins' kids, or whoever, the next generation of people that you're around. And I feel like that standard needs to be upheld by women as well, as far as what is acceptable behavior from a man and what is tolerable, what is not tolerable when it comes to domestic violence scenarios specifically. Mr. Grips, do you believe that there is any type of domestic violence? This is going to be the fucking, hold on. This is going to be the hot topic question. This is going to be the clickbait of the whole fucking episode right here for the Swanglin heavyweight champion down there in South Florida, Mr. Grips. Do you think that there is ever a time where domestic violence is acceptable?
No, not in my house. I want peace in my house. I don't even like to argue. You know what I'm saying? Like, nah, there's no functionality in it. You know, like violence has its function in the outside world sometimes, but in the inside world, nah. Because anyone that lives with me, because a domestic thing has to be someone that lives with
Yeah.
you.
Yes.
Anyone that lives with me has to operate under a certain code of conduct and standard.
Yeah.
Nobody coming into my house with none of that bullshit. So, nah,
Uh, I can,
never
I
been.
can, I'm gonna go a different direction. I'm gonna say yes, there is a time. And the only time the domestic violence in the house should be tolerated is in the bedroom after a long negotiation process. Domestic violence is okay in the bedroom setting after a long negotiation
Exactly.
process.
Yeah, you
There's
got to make sure
definitely,
you have the waiver
you know,
signed for that fucking
That ain't
primetime
really domestic
spectacle
violence.
submission match Indian
Y'all
leg
tripping.
wrestling tournament that's going to be going down in fucking in West Toledo there with a goddamn stand up
Props
Indians
like,
wrestling.
let's get freaky. She's like, okay. She lays down and gets her with a people elbow and shit. You know what I'm saying?
Oh man. I
Hell,
would love to see the smoothness of that pivot on that turn for the people's elbow from stand up
as he looks
BG.
up and drops the
uh,
elbow, like,
oh yeah, I'll put
Oh
I'll
man.
put a chick in an ankle lock in a second.
Oh man. Then
I'm
offend like
joking. I'm
okay.
joking.
See, I could have predicted this scenario to happen, to where Rapper Geek slides in via ankle lock, comes in as the Swanglin heavyweight champion, then, and he's then known as Kurt Swangle. How do you guys feel about that?
damn.
I like that.
Kurt Swangle. Vice is disgusted. You can see the
I'm
look on
so
his face.
disgusted.
He's disgusted. Just the thought alone of potentially maybe coming up short on that fucking first ever title defense of the Swanglin heavyweight champion could have that fucking dude in South Florida down there with his back against the
You
fucking
know,
wall. But I,
I've had a
but I'll
good
let you go.
run. I've had a good run, so it's possible. Anything's possible.
Oh, do you hear that? For the first time ever, a slight ray of humility from the Swanglin heavyweight champion. And I believe that we're going to find out here in a few minutes that he was joking or clowning. Stan Edwards Jr., we know that you're still on the come up. You're ready for some violence in some regard. And when it comes to capturing the fucking Swangler championship of all time, do you think that it's going to break down in a scenario where you're going to walk away with the fucking strap, dude? Do you think it's going to happen?
Oh, I know it's gonna happen. That's not even a question. My what I want to know is how it's going to happen. Or
Shit, he almost caught me up today because, you know, we started a little late. I was looking around the house like, should I go run some errands? I wonder if it's gonna pop off. You know, to let the listeners in a little behind the scenes. And then I slid into the match, and then here comes Stan from out the crowd with the steel chair again. Like that boy
I
just
had to,
that's his move at this point.
I had to get my Mitch on real quick. The way Mitch used to slide in at the last minute, you know.
Facts.
Well, and we're not done yet. We're not done yet. So you might have
Mitch,
set the fucking
Mitch
tone
might
out of nowhere.
Mitch might slide up from under the ring here in a second.
Oh yeah, his music might
Points
hit
down
sometime
from the rafters.
Soon. And we are, today, as collectively the fucking illustrious conspiracy family, we're missing our fucking co-host, man. The fucking fickle freckle boy living in the sea. We got to give a shout out to Kyle Nucleus Holsinger on his double youth soccer championships. We got to give a round of applause for the homie for that. His overall record as a head coach or some shit, he said he's like 14-2. You know what I'm saying? So he's nice. Double dangling. He's really showing these kids the way on the soccer tip.
We're gonna have to call him Dill Jackson.
Oh Jesus,
putting them W's.
Dill Jackson. You want to know what? I like the sound of that. So we're gonna when we roll out maybe episode 44 or 45, he'll be known as Dill Jackson. But we want to shout him out as well. We always got to shout out the homies like Marinated Mitch as well, and CJ De Niro, the King of the Wing, and other members of the illustrious motherfucking conspiracy family and the YFGM lifestyle. Now, I want to go over a couple more things that are on this fucking list, dude, because this shit is fucking wild. One of these statistics says that 53% of battered women still involved with the perpetrator experience self-blame for the cause of the violence. Do you believe that? I mean, clearly, that is like part of the manipulation, right, guys? That's not like there's no way that someone deserves to be harmed, right?
Yeah.
But I'll give you a spicy take. They should be blamed because they stayed. Read that statistic again.
Okay, I will go ahead and read that statistic again. 53% of battered women still involved with the perpetrator experienced self-blame for the cause of violence.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not the initial cause, but anything after that, if you stay in that situation, obviously you're still in that situation. Like, I think it's all too often we think we can change people instead of just accepting who they are.
Right.
You got to accept what people show you. They're showing you who they are, like when it's all idealistic and good in the beginning, you're like, okay, I like this person. He likes me. She likes me, whatever. Fucking, we're going to get to know each other. Well, now you got to know them. You see that side. That's an indication you need to get out of that situation.
Yeah, I think that clearly that as you look at these super fucking alarming high statistics, like you got to say that as people, we have to start dialing in and really starting to grow and work on setting our own fucking boundaries within people and interpersonal relationships. Like, you don't have to be tolerant to anything.
No.
In reality, you do not have to.
I mean, like and I don't want to speak for women. I can't speak for women, but like, I think a lot of guys know how to tap into the fact that a lot of women, they don't feel like they are good enough. You know what I mean? That's a big issue with women. So I think in those situations, the guys that they're dealing with, they really tapped into that and made them, reminded them, or what I'm saying, like, not necessarily reminded them, but like reinforced in their head that they're not good enough, right? Because women are emotional creatures, right? And all of our beliefs are usually tied to our emotions a lot of times. All of our behaviors are tied to our emotions. So if that emotion or that energy in motion is in, like that state that you're constantly in is, I'm not good enough, and I deserve what's happening to me, right? Like, all that's going to do is just reinforce the fact that they're staying where they are. Us looking at it from the outside, looking in, it makes no sense. It's like, why would you stay somewhere, when you are getting mistreated? It makes no sense looking at it from the outside, but from the inside, like you said, they think they might change that person, or they're remembering how things used to be good, and they trying to they want to get back to when things were good,
Mm.
and they think they've been convinced that they messed something up, or that they changed something, or because I'm not doing this, things change. So I want to get back to when things were good, so I need to fix something in me, that way he doesn't do that to me anymore. And like it's a deep cycle, you know what I mean, that they go through. And like I said, I can't speak for them, but just knowing what seeing, what I've researched on certain subjects, like it's very deep for them.
Yo, dude, and it's wild how one thing is for sure that is like, the setting of those boundaries and being tolerant to certain scenarios. I'm sure there's plenty of people that are female that get put in these scenarios that really don't have many other options to get out because the dude has pretty much isolated and created this scenario to make them feel as if they're fucking trapped. You know what I'm saying? But as a dude, like I feel like I gotta stand on this, dude. That shit is not fucking cool. You know what I mean? When dudes do those like super like protective, like fucking overly like physically abuse, fucking beat up their female.
Shit, I
This
got
is
a home.
clown shit.
I got a homeboy that his sister hasn't seen her family in like a year or two because the dude's just so overprotective. Sometimes won't even let her go to work. That's how jealous this motherfucker is. Like, why are you still with him? You know what I'm saying? That shit's crazy. Like, I don't understand it. Like,
Yeah,
she's not
dude.
allowed to even talk to her family.
I got a
That's not acceptable.
I got a friend that, like, and their situation isn't like a domestic violence situation or anything like that, but her dude is so fucking jealous. Like, she actually quit her job, and she was the breadwinner. She was the one bringing most of the money in.
Wow.
You know
That's
what I'm
just
saying?
such
Like,
a stupid.
yeah, that's just what I'm saying. Like, she quit her job. Like, her husband, he don't do nothing. He on disability, right? But like, he don't really do nothing. But he was so jealous and had such an issue with her and her job and the people that she interacted with at her job. She actually quit her job for this dude. And I don't see it fixing anything, but it's crazy what women will do for the wrong dude a lot of times.
Shit,
Yeah.
or what dudes will do for the wrong woman.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the coin definitely fucking flips in both directions. You
Oh
know what
yeah,
I'm
most
saying?
definitely.
Yeah,
There's
fact.
definitely some work that needs to be done as a populace on all these fucking things when it comes down to the stem of a lot of domestic violence, like Stanton mentioned earlier, is ability to process your emotions in a timely manner before you rage the fuck out, potentially. If you're one of these fucking dudes that likes to beat up females or do this weird shit, for one, you're a pussy. And, like, I feel as if I need to stand on the fact that I hope that, like, the people that, like, beat up females and sexually abuse, especially the sexual abusers of females, you guys are fucking creeps. You know what I mean? I feel like those dudes, somebody should like stomp on their fucking dong with like a fresh pair of like fucking
Oh
steel
yeah.
toed Doc Martin, full coverage stomped right to the fucking genitals because you're a
Oh yeah.
pussy and you're a fucking loser. Do you guys co-sign that statement or what?
100%, 1,000%.
Absolutely.
It's
Take
like,
a take a spike back to the balls.
yeah, hammer to the kneecaps all day.
No damn
Fucking
right.
those kind of people, they do that because they feel powerful, picking on, others that are not on their level. So you'll pick on someone your own size or someone that can really do some real violence to you. Then you see how tough you are.
Oh
You
yeah,
know.
people don't want to, like, you see that in a lot of scenarios where people kind of prey on the fragility of things.
Yeah.
And these people that like try and get over on women like that, I feel like a lot of them are exploiting like mental weakness that they see them in the or physical weakness, or
Yeah, but
exploiting their
even like you just said,
desires or whatever.
exactly exploiting them, like exploiting their love, exploiting their caring, like knowing that they can just manipulate and abuse them because this person is emotionally attached to them, and they're probably a fucking sociopath, or so they're not feeling it. They're just fucking fronting like they are, so they can manipulate the other person. It's shit's like, yo, it's like those are evil people. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for sure. And if you look at the long game, we're about playing the long game on the Swanglin Show, episode 43. Joshua P. Dunn, the number one swangler, Mr. Grips, South Florida, Dan Marley Jr. in the motherfucking building, Stan Edwards Jr., rapper geek in the fucking house, representing as the clear cut number one contender and potentially the man of the fucking hour, is in the fucking building. We're talking about domestic violence. We're talking about these creep ass fucking dudes out here that do this scumbag fuckery. That's unacceptable. And we've also mentioned in some regards how, um, you know, we have to build our own tolerance and set our own boundaries within our relationships, and all these different fucking ways that maybe we can try and prevent this type of violence from happening in the future, because we all know this shit's unacceptable. Like Vice said earlier, I want my fucking house just to be like what he said, to be the peaceful place. When I'm done with the
Yep.
fucking the bullshit of the world, this is where I come home and I fucking unwind and relax and do the things I want to do and
It's
have
home
fun.
base. It's supposed to be a safe
Exactly.
zone.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you guys think that you guys both kind of had referenced that you feel as if that this statistic is maybe being misrepresented as low? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because of most of it being going unreported, right? So, if you're a woman, this is a hot take question. If you're a woman and you're being physically abused, is calling the police snitching?
No.
No, hell no. I think we gotta like really um I think we gotta really like do away with that conversation in certain aspects.
I
Because
think so
like if
too.
your life is on the line, you know what I'm saying? Like if your well-being is on the line, um, if the protection of the people in your community and you know the people in your house is on the line, like calling law enforcement or getting, you know what I'm saying? Like that's not snitching.
Yeah.
That's you trying to protect, you know, what's around you. You know what I'm saying? Like it's definitely not snitching, you know.
Well, let me, as
You know,
someone who spent way too much of their life in the street doing dumb shit, trying to prove how tough he was, let me define snitching for those that don't actually have an understanding of what it is. Actual snitching is giving information to law enforcement in order to save your own ass because you're involved in a situation. You know what I'm saying? And you put yourself in that situation, and now you're going to rat on somebody to not have to do the time when you did the crime. So you're going to throw it on one of your partners, you know what I'm saying, former partners, so you
yeah,
can get reduced. You know what I mean?
yeah,
That's
that's
real
real snitching.
snitching.
Yeah,
Like,
straight up, that is real
like,
snitching.
fuck it. I was going to work one day. I opened my front door. My neighbor knocked on my front door. I'm getting dressed. I open the door, and my neighbor's like, "They stole your rims." I'm like, "What the fuck?" I look at my shit's on cinder blocks. All my fucking wheels are gone. You know what I'm saying? I called the cops. I had to file a report. That's not fucking snitching. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
That's
that's being able to get your money back. You know what I'm
exactly.
saying?
I
With
gotta
that
I gotta
police
make
report.
insurance claims and shit.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
straight
Like
Mm-hmm.
up, big time
that ain't no,
facts. So
that ain't snitching.
if you're listening to the Swangland Show, you got to make sure, man, as a man, that you got these things in place, man. You got to have the car insurance. You got to have the fucking life insurance policy. You got to have these things. When it comes to playing protocol to the long game, you know what I mean? That's never snitching. You know what I'm saying? Because as
Yeah.
we're the type of people that we're trying to build long term, you know. And a lot of these dudes that are like predatory on females, dude, it's like a quick game. They're trying to get as much as they can get while they're trying to get it, and there's no long game involved. Whereas, you know, if you see it as if you're dealing with another fucking human being, that their success can mirror your success, which in turn amplifies both of your successes,
Yep.
and you see people as an asset as opposed to a pawn, and you look at the grand scheme of things, There's no way that one of these fucking douchebags would ever be able to try and defend their behavior or defend their actions when it comes to how they misrepresent and disregard and like fucking belittle women, dude. Because in reality, um, they feel inferior in some way, shape, or form. That's why they project that out to somebody else, right? But little do they know the person that they're actually belittling could be the key to them actually unlocking the thing that they're inferior about. What do you guys think
Yep.
about that?
Yeah, it's facts. I think you know, people have their own reasons for it, but that's definitely probably one of them. You know, but I don't know what gets into these dudes' heads. You know, like you said, you have someone that if you're in a relationship with, it's supposed to be a build. It's supposed to be a power couple type shit. You know what I'm saying? It's not easy to get through life with one income nowadays. Like the powers that be are squeezing the shit. Inflation is crazy. So two
Yeah,
incomes is like almost necessary. So it's like having a partner, someone that you're intimate with. Like, why would you abuse that situation when it could be so much of a addition to your situation?
I
absolutely.
know one thing. I know one issue a lot of guys have, and I can throw myself in there too. Is not having any direction in life. Like if you don't have a fucking, you don't even have a plan. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, like a woman should be an asset to your life. She should be an asset to your plan. But the problem is you got to have a plan. You got to have a direction. Like you got to have somewhere that you actually going in life. Otherwise, like, you're not giving her anything to look forward to. You know what I'm saying? So, and I think a lot of times that's the issue too. A lot of these guys, they don't even know they don't know who they are, and they don't know where they're going. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And if you know who you are, you know what you're going, you have, like Josh said, you got standards for your life. You wouldn't even let it get to the point where it becomes a domestic violence situation.
Yeah.
Whatever the situation,
Yeah,
whatever
big
the
facts.
situation. If you have now, if you have mental or emotional issues that's causing you to be violent towards women, then obviously you need to get that shit the fuck figured out. But you
Yep.
know, if you at a point, if it's a situation where you with a woman, you have no standards and no values, and you don't know who you are in life, you have no plan in life, and you allow this woman into your life, and let her put you into your emotions, you know what I'm saying? And now you reacting to her emotions in an emotional way, and that's her wheelhouse. So it's like she's just going to escalate it because that's what she knows best. And then you allow her to keep you in your emotions to the point where now you're getting angry and aggressive, because that's where most guys usually do, or where most guys usually go. Now you turn that anger and aggression into violence. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
Because you
dude.
allow this woman to get you in your emotions, because you don't have any standards for yourself. If you had standards for yourself, you wouldn't even let that woman get you into your emotions in the first
Oh,
place.
for
Right.
sure. Because you're like, okay, it seems as if this person's trying to prey on somebody else's fragility, but in reality, it's the other way around. He's playing against himself and his own fucking flaw of how he wants to present this. So, I feel like, man, I just would love to fucking see this happen. Like, one of these little son of a bitches just try and pull some fuck shit in public and just get destroyed. Because it's always done domestically, privately, where they feel like physically they have the upper hand. You know what I'm saying? So hopefully, man, like, you watch movies like fucking Kill Bill and shit, dude. Hopefully we can start getting. There's been a major spark in women's fucking combat sports, MMA, and pro wrestling and shit. Hopefully, it's gonna inspire the younger generation of female to bust a motherfucker's ass when they try and do this fuck shit and just keep stepping because they deserve way better. And that's the one point that I want to prove on the fucking Swanglin Show episode 43. For the people that may have been a fucking victim of domestic violence or somebody that's maybe currently going through that shit, fuck that. There is people that can support you, and there's ways for you to get out of that scenario, and you definitely got to do that because you have way more value. Excuse me, I hit the mic because I'm getting wild out.
Yeah. And you got the co-sign from the conspiracy family to snitch on that fucking women beating bastard. Call them
Yeah.
pigs. Fuck them.
I want to see Okay, so I wonder if we could set up. What do you guys think it would take? Like maybe 15 to 20 grand to find one of these little son of a bitches, right? That beats women, and tell them we're gonna send them up in like a charity fucking handicap match for the fucking charity or whatever. And he shows up and it's actually members of the illustrious family, and he
Mm.
catches the most epic beatdown of all time live. How do you guys feel about potentially participating in something like that?
Oh
I
yeah,
like.
punch my ticket. Fuck
I,
yeah.
honestly, I would prefer. That's a great idea, but I would prefer to set them up with a group of let's say you know, prison guys, and give him the gangbang of a lifetime. I
Oh
think
yeah,
that
That's terrible. That's
that's
awful.
that
Oh, man.
they deserve
Talk
it.
yeah.
about some evil
I'm
shit.
telling you, I feel like
They deserve it.
that would be very satisfying to be the one to serve up one of these little son of a bitches that does that shit. Because dude, they fucking deserve it. You know what I mean?
Yo, low
And I'm
key,
thinking,
something I got to take that might be spicy, but I don't know if we got time for it because we running kind of long in the tooth. But like I said it earlier today, because there was a mass shooting. A dude live streamed the shooting in like Canada or some shit. Fucking
Buffalo.
yeah,
Buffalo,
it's
New York, yeah,
Yeah.
Buffalo. Yeah,
South Canada. You know what I'm saying? Upstate New York's pretty much
Right.
Canada.
yeah,
But
South Canada,
uh,
real talk.
but yo, he streamed and shot people, killed like 10 people. It's like, and then he was gonna shoot himself, and the cops convinced him not to. Now he's gonna face trial. But what's he gonna do?
What a
The
little
rest of his
son of a
life in a cushy
bitch.
jail cell, 3 hots in the cot. You don't gotta worry about nothing. How about we fucking, you know what I'm saying? Bring torture back, just like uh, the victims of the family should be allowed to just whop on this kid whenever they have a bad day. They should just be able to show up at the prison and be like, "Yeah, strap him down, let me beat the dog shit out of him."
I
You know what I'm
agree.
saying?
Well, shit,
I
For
it
the
would
agree.
rest,
almost
for the
be.
rest of his life, because there's got to be something more. Like people aren't getting deterred by life or executions anymore. It's got to
Mhm.
be like worse. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Than what the real prison system is right now. And that's
Stretch
bad
him,
to say because our prison system is fucking crazy.
stretch him out.
yeah. Oh yeah. I've been working. I've been thinking about this move, dude. Like a fucking snap cradle brainbuster move, where I just fucking smoke somebody with this fucking quick suplex. So if you're one of these little son of a bitches that beats women and all this that bullshit that you little fuck boys do, it's episode 43 of the Swanglin Show. Just know I got a fucking legit snap suplex for your fucking stankin' ass because you're a little fuck boy. And you might catch somebody like Stan Edwards Jr. when you're out and about, and you might not recognize he's the number one contender and he sees you do some fuck shit and it might be curtains for you. You might see fucking Mr. Grips out there in South Florida. You might see Marinated Mitch in Arkansas. You know, there's stand up men all over the country that will not tolerate your fuck shit. So you think you're getting over now on a female when really you got life upside down. You need to do that work on yourself
A,
and fix yourself, my friend, because fuck
a
you.
botched a botched German suplex on concrete. On concrete. That's what you got coming.
Oh yeah, that sounds like severe paralysis, potential neck injury, lumbar, whole deal. Could get wiped out on episode 43 of the Swanglin Show. As always, it's Joshua P. Dunn. I've been joined by members of the illustrious conspiracy family. We just want to convey the message at the end of this show that it's not cool to fucking beat women or abuse women. Stop doing it. You're a fucking piece of shit, little son of a bitch.